Welcome to this virtual chat about Census 2020 updates. We welcome our census partners and the general public. I am Wanda Pierce, co-chair of the Complete Count Committee for Arlington County 2020 Census. And I'm here with my co-chair, Elisa Ortiz. And we'll be working with County Manager Schwartz and Arlington County staff through this Census 2020 count. Also glad to have Elizabeth Hardy, who's the principal planner for Arlington County, and Bryna Helfer, who's assistant county manager, and several county staffers handling the logistics of this broadcast. This session is being live streamed on Facebook, the Arlington County TV cable channels, as well as YouTube. Participants can submit their questions in the Facebook chat box or text their questions to 571-348-3053. Folks, we're all adjusting in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and changing how we conduct business for the census. And this pandemic shows us the importance of participating in the census and supporting long-term planning and for the people of this community. We all want to be counted. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce my co-chair, Elisa Ortiz.
Thank you, Wanda. So good to see you, and welcome to everybody who is on the chat, the live stream today. So we've got a couple special guests who are that are joining us today. First will be Katie Crystal of the Arlington County Board, and we also have Kevin McGowan of the U.S. Census Bureau, who will share with us some of the updates about how the census is being conducted during quarantine and how Arlington County is working to make sure that every single resident is counted. And we are excited to have them with us. So Katie, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa and Wanda, and thanks for this opportunity to talk about the importance of being counted and where Arlington County is in that effort. So really glad to be with you all. I just want to thank again our co-chairs of the Arlington Complete Count Committee and all of our Complete Count Committee members and partners for your commitment to making sure everyone gets counted. We also have census partners spread out across Arlington County, from houses of worships to schools and preschools to small businesses and restaurants. And we want to thank all of them too for spreading the word and encouraging everyone in their networks to be counted. So obviously this is a really challenging time, particularly as we're all navigating the global pandemic. We know whatever reopening looks like, whatever loosening of restrictions look like, it's going to happen over a long period of time with a lot of changes to life as we know it. So we want to take a second and just talk about how this virus is impacting the census in our own community. The great news is that at this point, Arlington is almost 65% counted. That's about 76,000 households who have made their voices heard on the census. So that leaves about 40,000 households left to go. We still have some work to do, and it's going to be really important to reach people virtually. I'm looking forward to hearing a little more from Kevin and the Census Bureau today on the updates at a federal level. But mostly I just want to say, we know that folks have got some census fatigue alongside their quarantine fatigue. But if you're looking for reasons to dig deep, please just know that your work is so important. The coronavirus has not only made it harder to get a complete count, but it's made it more meaningful to get a complete count, because these federal dollars that are allocated on the basis of the census serve things like hospitals and emergency response, the very things we're so reliant on in our community right now. So thank you. Please keep it up. The good news is that people do have safe, social distantly approved options for taking the census. It's still available online. You can be counted by phone. There are paper options, none of which require person-to-person interaction. It is possible to be counted and be counted safely. So thank you for joining us today. I'm looking forward to a great conversation and participating in this ongoing conversation about ensuring that everyone in Arlington is counted.
Well, thank you, Katie. Thank you for your leadership. And now let's turn to Kevin McGowan, who is with the U.S. Census Bureau, for an update. Kevin?
Yes, I am uploading my PowerPoint now. Sorry.
While Kevin's updating his PowerPoint, I encourage everyone, if you haven't personally done the census, please do so. It takes 10 minutes. You do it online. It's very quick. And please, make sure that your neighbors and your friends and your relatives are all being counted as well. Every household has to be counted. So please go online and do your part so that Arlington gets our fair share. Kevin?
Yes. Can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Great. I'm Kevin McGowan. I'm an Assistant Regional Census Manager from the Philadelphia Regional Census Center. Our region encompasses 8 states in addition to Washington, D.C. I'm lucky enough to oversee Northern Virginia and the D.C. area. And I'm here to provide a census refresher and update. As we are now in the self-response phase, it is really important for everyone to know why the decennial census matters. Not only is it mandated by the Constitution, it is used to apportion seats in the House of Representatives. It is also used for redistricting. What usually gets people's attention the most is what I will cover next. The census count shapes decisions about how billions of dollars in federal funds flow into communities each year for the next 10 years. This funding goes to schools, roads and bridges, healthcare, and emergency services. Our overall goal is to always count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. Some exciting new things have been added to the 2020 census. We have maximized outreach by using traditional and new media. For the first time, you can also respond online. Our field workers are using handheld devices to collect data, and we're also using automated systems for recruiting, training, and payroll. There are 3 easy ways to respond to the census. The easiest and quickest way is to respond online at my2020census.gov. You can also respond by phone at 844-330-2020. Paper form is an option as well. If you have not received your paper form in the mail, you should expect it within the next 2 weeks. A cool feature we have for the 2020 census is an interactive map that shows response rates. You can view response rates by states, counties, cities. You can also drill down into census tracts or congressional districts. This can be found at 2020census.gov/response-rates. From the same site as the map, you can access this interactive database. You can automatically rank various geographic areas, such as cities and counties. Now that I've talked about the response rate maps and rankings, let's look at some actual response rates. Nationally, we have a response rate of 56%. Virginia is at 61%, and Arlington County is at 65%. This ranks Virginia 10th of all states, and Arlington County at 17th of all Virginia counties. I'll briefly talk about non-response follow-up. Non-response follow-up is our largest operation and will run from August through October. Households who have not completed a questionnaire via online, paper, or phone will be visited in person by an enumerator. And these enumerators will use handheld devices to collect the census data. We do have some slight operational changes. The self-response phase has been extended to October 31st. Our group quarters operation has been extended to September 3rd. As I said earlier, the non-response follow-up operation will begin October 11th and run through October 31st. And the majority of our trainings will be virtual to reduce in-person gatherings. No matter how you respond to the census, your answers are confidential, safe, and secure. All census staff take a lifetime oath to protect your personal information. We will never share individual responses to agencies, and we will never ask for your social security number or any other financial information. Thanks for letting me share some census updates and refresher for you today. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Lisa?
Thank you, Kevin. We do already have a couple questions coming in, which is great. So you kind of answered a little bit, but just maybe more specifically, someone's asking in regards to the deadline of the census, now that there's an extension, and as you said, you've moved some of your operations back. Is there a confirmed deadline for when it will be completed?
The non-response follow-up will end of October, and that'll be the self-response phase will end then as well.
Great. Again, you addressed this a little bit, but are enumerators going to hit the streets as soon as the governor lifts the stay-at-home order?
No, so the non-response follow-up operation will not start until August.
Okay, great. So this question might be for you, but it could also be for Katie. It seems Fairfax and Alexandria are a bit ahead of us. What are they doing differently that has them making progress faster? And how can we increase our efforts to reach out to immigrant communities?
So I'd be happy to take that one. Although Kevin might be able to share that Fairfax and Alexandria data, I did not know they were outpacing us and beating us with our higher than our 69% being counted. I'll have to follow up with some queries for my colleagues in those jurisdictions about what their complete count committees are doing. But what I can say is that the complete count committee has been incredibly hard at work reaching out to immigrant communities. Elisa and Wanda may be able to speak a little more meaningfully about some of those efforts in specific, but the primary way we've been trying to do this outreach is to include trusted partners in our immigrant communities as members of our complete count committee or as our census partners. Our goal is for people to hear about the census from 3 or 5 different places they trust, whether that might be their church or mosque or synagogue, their child's daycare program, Head Start or public school, and then from friends in the community. And so it's really been about good old-fashioned word of mouth and really trying to find people who can be trusted or who are trusted by members of our community, especially at a time when misinformation may be circulating about what census information will and won't be used for. But I'd love to invite Elisa and Wanda to share a little more about some of our dedicated outreach to hard to count communities, especially our immigrant community.
Wanda, do you want to take that one?
Sure. We've got, as Katie mentioned, lots of trusted advisors. So for instance, we have folks from AFAC, the Arlington Food Assistance Center, who are including in the food distribution network information and the ability for people to sign up for the census. We're also going after some of the Latino groups through trusted advisors as well. It's a little more difficult, with not having the face-to-face interaction, but people are using their social networks to be able to spread the word to many of the Latino groups.
Thanks, Wanda. So I have a question probably for Kevin. Someone saying that they got a job offer in January as an enumerator, and they got fingerprinted in February, awaiting the FBI background check and subsequent training. Will the process continue, and will we still have these jobs after lockdown?
Yes. Once we start getting full staffing back for our offices and get back into our operations, everyone who has been hired, we'll be getting back in contact with you to get you trained for our operations.
Great. Another great question, and I know one that's definitely where you all have had to adjust your operations, is how do you count the homeless?
Yeah, so we have a few different processes for that. We have enumeration, which is service-based enumeration. So that may be a soup kitchen or an emergency shelter. And we also go out, we would have gone out April 1st to conduct a count that night. When we temporarily suspended our operations, those 2 projects are still being discussed with our outside stakeholders and partners to finalize that.
Great. I would extend, this isn't a question from someone else, but I would extend that to other group quarters, things like how have you been dealing with colleges, college dorms, other facilities like prisons or jails or detention facilities?
Yeah, we've still been doing outreach with them. For colleges, we've allowed them to switch to e-response, where they don't have to get in physical contact with any census employee. They can submit it over the internet. So we've been in contact with all of those group quarters and keeping them updated on our operations.
Great. More questions coming in. Keep them coming, folks. So you, again, addressed this a little bit in your presentation, but maybe even rolling it back to March when things sort of got started with COVID and lockdown. What adjustments has the Census Bureau made so far to follow up with those that did not respond?
I'm sorry.
Or who have not yet responded. So what specific adjustments has the Census Bureau made to follow up with those who have not or has not yet self-responded?
Yeah, well, we continue with our media campaign, and we've also continued to work with our partners to spread the message about the importance and the ease of responding online or by phone.
Great. So someone's asking, some people associate the census with a census taker, right? An enumerator. How can you reach them if census takers can't go door to door because of the virus, especially if it continues on for even longer than we might originally think?
How would the census takers get in contact with the household?
Right, if they can't go door to door, or if something prevented that.
Yep. I mean, as of now, we're still planning to have non-response follow-up begin in August. If there did need to be changes, then it would be addressed then.
Great. So do you know, oh, okay, someone's asking, I know I think Katie mentioned the number, but do you know how many Arlington households have been counted, and how does that differ from individuals being counted?
I do not. You have to look at the response rate. Do you have this, Katie?
I do have this. So our response rate is 64.9% counted, which is 76,000 households counted. And I can defer to Kevin as the expert, but I do believe the census measures in terms of households because we don't know how many individuals may be at an address. So it's sort of a, I guess, unknown denominator or numerator, I guess, or denominator in terms of how many individuals are at each address. We don't know how many individuals there are in Arlington County until we hear from the households about how many individuals are responding or living there.
Yes, exactly right. The response rate is tied to the household.
Right, okay. Which is why it's so important, right, that every single person, even babies, old folks, folks who may be not related to other people but are living in the household, get counted.
Yes.
Excellent. I have another question that's for Katie and or Elizabeth, if you all want to chime in. We talked about it a little bit, but what do you think we can do here in Arlington to continue to reach our hard to reach communities? And I would just tack on, so what are the hard to reach communities in Arlington and elsewhere?
Well, I know we talked about our immigrant or non-English speaking communities, but I wonder if some of the other ones are children under 5, seniors. So Elizabeth, don't want to monopolize the conversation if you want to share some of the other populations or efforts to reach out to them.
Sure, hello. Virtually, I think everyone is a little bit a part of the hard to count community because the census is so different this year. We're all kind of used to filling out our census and hard copy and mailing it back, but really having the push, and I think, very thankful that the push has been online this year. I don't know if the census saw this coming or what, but, having everyone to be able to respond online or by phone is great. But we have to think about who are the people who are not going to be responding right off the bat. Who are the people who might be, a little scared to respond or not understand how it's important. We think of seniors who are if we're pushing for people to respond online, it might be a little difficult for someone who doesn't really, have access to a computer or know how to use a computer. We think of, different language difficulties. There's over 100 languages spoken in Arlington. And the census is done in 13 languages, which is, I think, doubling from what it was in 2010. But we still have a language gap. And maybe, Kevin, you can talk about the languages and information that people can access online. I think there's 59 language guides. Is that right?
Yes, you can respond by phone or by internet in one of 13 languages, and online we have 59 language guides as well.
So Kevin, can you just say a little bit more if somebody doesn't have English as a first language, like what's exactly the process that they would follow to take the census in their language?
Yeah, so if you go to my2020census.gov, on the bottom of the screen, it has the different language options at the bottom. And that's also where we work with our partners. If someone doesn't speak English, they speak another language, our partners can kind of help them go to the right site or call the right number to respond.
How about, are there other methods, right? Would they call phone number? What's the difference if they're not taking it in English?
So on our website, 2020census.gov, which is it's a great site to go to if anybody has questions about anything census related. It covers a lot of different things. It has our operations, and that website does list all of the numbers to call. And I can provide that to you as well if you want to blast that out.
Definitely. Do you know offhand what the 12 languages are?
Yes, so it is Chinese Mandarin, Chinese Cantonese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yep.
We had a lot of questions, yeah, about the about the languages coming in, and then we can just go to the census website to find the 56 language guides. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. So we have a couple other questions on slightly different topics. First one for you, Kevin, and then I think one for Elizabeth. So Kevin, if someone is in the hospital or has died on or since April 1st, should they still be counted?
No, if you passed away after April 1st, you should not be counted in the census. Or sorry. If you passed away after April 1st, you should be counted in the census.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Elizabeth, over to you. What were Arlington's response rates in 2010 and 2000?
So in 2010, Arlington had a response rate of 74%. And this is really the mailback response rate because it was a different survey tool used at that time. So it's kind of comparing apples and oranges right now, but we can think back if we can get up to 74%. That would be great. And we have more households this time around, so it's even harder to reach that percentage. And we also have to keep in mind that not all housing units are occupied in Arlington, so that can influence our response rate count as well. We have, and we also, in the group quarters population, and that gets counted, that also influences our response rate. So a lot of factors in there, but I think we're doing great. We're getting up to 65% now. We still have, as Katie said, we still have about 40,000 more households to go.
Thanks, Elizabeth. You spoke to this a little before, Kevin, but someone's asking whether Fort Myer or how Fort Myer is being counted, as well as people in assisted living and communal living situations.
Yep, so we have military enumeration, and the local area census offices will be in contact with the military bases to assist with their enumeration. And then if your living situation falls within group quarters, you'll be counted during the group quarters operation.
Right, so that's a specific sort of part of the count.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Back to Katie and Elizabeth, and maybe Wanda and I can also speak to this one, but so schools aren't in session, obviously, but how has Arlington Public Schools been involved in census outreach?
This is a great question. So we know that Arlington Public Schools has been our most key partner from day one. And I know that there were all kinds of activities involved to incorporate counts and the census and the history of the census and counting exercises into our curricula in Arlington Public Schools. My understanding from my counterpart in the census effort, Barbara Kennan of the Arlington Public Schools, is that some of that work had transitioned to virtual learning. But I don't know if we have another teammate that wanted to share more about APS's efforts, including emphasizing the census knowledge and awareness during food distribution and other critical responses during the pandemic.
Does anyone else want to take that one? I can speak to it if you need to, but I'm welcoming anyone else. Hearing none. I'll just say you're absolutely right, Katie. APS has been one of our first and best partners on the Complete Count Committee, and they've gone above and beyond in incorporating this. So even well back into the fall, and even actually during the county fair last August in 2019, the APS was heavily involved in helping do outreach and develop the curricula, as you said, incorporating it into classes. Some classes have done I even did census projects, and we have a couple students from Arlington Public Schools on the Complete Count Committee. So we have, their feedback and their expertise in terms of outreaching to their young colleagues. So it's been a great partnership, and there's really a ton of stuff. Arlington County, we have our own Complete Count Committee website as well, which is an excellent tool if you want to check in on any of this and see all of our fun videos and lots of activities from Arlington. And a note here related to the language question from earlier, Arlington did create a language guide in Mongolian, which is a language heavily spoken in Arlington. So we've been able to provide some more resources. All right, more questions coming in. Keep them coming, folks. So this might be for Kevin, I think. How does the delay affect redistricting efforts, congressional redistricting?
So it wouldn't affect it. If you go to 2020census.gov, we do have a press release outlining the proposed modifications to the schedule. So it would be best to look there to see that. And I have it in front of me as well. So under the proposed, we would deliver redistricting counts to the states by July 31st of 2021.
Okay, great. Another one for you, Kevin, more of a challenging situation here. So what will happen with counting college students who, of course, were living in their dorms possibly, and then are back home now and might go back to different dorms after they return in the fall? Where do they get counted? How do they get counted?
Yep. Yeah, so we've been working extensively with the colleges and universities in our region. Colleges are still counting for the group quarters operation where the college students would have been if they did not get sent home.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if college students have come home, their parents or whoever they're living with should not count them as they're part of their household because they were counted as part of their group quarters as of April 1?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so based on our resident criteria, you should be counted where you normally stay, and they should have been on their college campuses, which is why their colleges are going to include them in the group quarters count.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's very helpful, because this is, I think, one of the more confusing parts of all of this with people, being transient and having to move back home or wherever. And so I think that goes for a lot of people who may have potentially moved in with family or relocated during to, sort of quarantine together during the COVID crisis, that they should be counted where they were living or would have been living as of April 1 if things were quote unquote normal. Great. Kevin or others, what are the most creative strategies you've seen from across the region? You mentioned, Kevin, that you work with multiple different states and jurisdictions. Anything that Arlington can learn from in terms of outreach to folks that need to be counted?
Some of the things I've seen are PSAs from a local figure posted to social media. I believe Arlington County is doing this as well, but if there's food drives or anything and the things are being put in bags, maybe put some census messaging within that bag. Those are two examples that I've seen that have worked well.
Great. Okay, we got a couple more questions, but folks, keep them coming. We have some more time. So let's see, where was I? So for Elizabeth or for Wanda, how can partners of Arlington County Complete Count Committee help during these challenging times and continue to get the word out?
Sure, I can take that one. So we have over 240 partners in Arlington, and that's a fabulous number. These partners have really been helping us get the word out all along, and we really could use help with people to keep doing that. The partners have a great network. They're networks, and they influence so many people throughout Arlington. We need them to continually share the messages that we are pushing out. We have different stories going out every week about census related. So sign up for a news release story, the news release stories, and we can push that out. You can share that with your network. So really keeping that momentum going and trying to still get everyone counted. Ask people in your network, have you been counted? Ask your employees, have you taken the census? and make sure to give them maybe 5 minutes to go and do it. It's really quick. Doesn't take that long. They can either call, or go online, and then they're done. And it's just, being flexible and making sure everyone is counted. If you still want to be a partner, you can still be a partner. We still have that online sign up. You just go to arlingtonva.us/census. And there's a link on there that says get involved, and your organization can sign up to be a partner, or if you're an individual that just wants to help spread the word, you can become a census champion. So that's also on there too. We'll let Wanda add anything else she wants.
Yeah. I'll just add that prior to COVID-19, we had lots of different activities that our partners had planned, group activities, convenings, that we were encouraging them to spread the word. Now, a lot of our partners have gone to virtual meetings. Many of the churches in Arlington are doing virtual Sunday services. And so we're encouraging our partners to continue to express the same message to your groups that you would have done in person, but now it's online. So almost every Zoom call should say something about Census 2020. Encourage people to sign up and continue to stress the importance. And I would just say, as COVID-19 has shown us that, so much of this is about funding, and we know that the census is part of this. A great part of the census is about funding for so many of the important services in our community. And whatever number we have, we know we'll have for the next 10 years, no matter what happens in the country. So I would encourage those of you partners who have been so great about to incorporate a census message in your gatherings, please do so online as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wanda and Elizabeth. Actually, I have another question for you, Elizabeth, here. So if Arlington is at an over 60% count, but has a lot of empty homes or units, are we actually at a higher percentage than we thought? How do you figure that out?
So I want to say that we have a lot of empty units, but we do have empty units just like any other jurisdiction does. There's always that turnover. There's, new construction that takes a while to get filled. But yes, so those are all units, and they have addresses, right? So back in, I would say 2018, our Community Planning, Housing and Development worked on reviewing the complete list of census addresses that all of the invitations were mailed to. So we went through and scrubbed all 115,000 residential addresses for the county. It took us two teammates. It took us like 2 or 3 months just to get through the list, and we had to verify that every residential address was correct. And that was really the first step in making sure that everyone in the county would get counted. So, the invitations got mailed out to every single address, right? There's someone living in the address, that's considered a household. So everyone at that one address is considered one household and needs to fill out one census response. If you're roommates and you want to fill it out separately, you can do that. And I think the census has a process where they can, what is it called? Deduplicate, or make sure that only one response really is per household when they combine them. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that our housing units, there are some empty, and that does have an impact in the response rate, because right now you will not be getting a response if no one is living in that housing unit. But Kevin, is there a way, maybe you can explain how the Census Bureau handles vacant housing? Does that rely on an enumerator or a census taker to come around?
Yeah, so we can use some administrative records to maybe to determine if it's a vacant housing unit. But there's still a chance that housing unit will fall into the non-response follow-up, and we will send an enumerator there just to confirm that the housing unit is vacant.
Great. We do have sort of a related question to that, which is, what do you do if you have 2 residences? Mm-hmm. And how do you get counted, or which one?
Yep, so based on the Census Bureau resident criteria, you should be counted where you normally live. And if you can't determine that, you should respond with where you are on April 1st.
Okay, great. This one is possibly for you, Kevin, or Elizabeth, or both of you can take a stab at it. So are there specific census tracts in Arlington that have higher or lower response rates? And how can we do outreach in those areas? And I think you mentioned the map, Kevin, but I know that Elizabeth, you've been looking at the Rome maps as well.
Yes, there are definitely areas, just like any other part of the country, there are areas, neighborhoods that have higher response rates and neighborhoods that have lower response rates. And that, as we go along and look at that, that gives us information about the areas that we need to target our outreach and make sure everyone in those census tract areas are counted. So the census, through their online response mapper, they have a great tool that Kevin actually showed in your presentation, that you can go online and look down at the county level. You can look at the census tract level to see what is the responses in your neighborhood. If you live in a neighborhood that you have a low response rate or a lower response rate than another one, maybe you should ask your neighbor, hey, did you fill out your census? How can we get, everyone who goes to our school, make sure everyone there filled out their census? So that's really, it's been a great tool to use this time around. And have that ability to narrow in. I will say, we are definitely seeing that in some areas that have, like Fort Myer, there's an extremely low response rate in that area, and that's because they fall in the group quarters population and they haven't been counted yet fully. So, just keep in mind when you're looking at the self-response map that there are reasons behind the patterns you are seeing, and definitely the census operations has a big impact with that.
Excellent, thank you. So someone's offering to put out information in their mailroom because they live in an apartment building. How would they be able to get posters or flyers or other kinds of materials?
Does someone from Arlington want to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess that would be me.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so we can make materials available right now. I think we still have a few of those yard signs that we put out earlier in March. We kind of went around and put about, Alyssa, was it 400 yard signs? Not
Probably.
us personally, but
Yeah.
The whole Complete Count Committee, and we had a great partner workshop that took those out. Right now, we're in the process of getting some new signs up, translated in different languages that are spoken in Arlington, and putting them around the county. So those will be purple signs. So keep an eye out to look for the new purple signs. But we will have them available in the coming weeks in the lobby of 2100 Clarendon Boulevard, and we can contact us at census or at the Arlington County 2020 census.gov or 20. Oh gosh, that's not us. That's the Census Bureau's. At Arlington, we have a census email address here. Census 2020 at arlingtonva.us. I think that's it. I might be wrong. Let me just check on that email address and I'll get back to you. It might just be census at arlingtonva.us.
I know, I think you're a little too close to the project here, Elizabeth. Here. Well, also, you don't have to email it because you're always responding to it. So.
That's right. I never have to email it. So it's census 2020 at arlingtonva.us. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Elizabeth, while you're on, I have another question for you. How are we handling outreach to apartment managers? This is important because, Arlington's a dense community and we have a lot of multifamily housing, and a lot of those hard to count areas do happen to have a lot of apartment buildings. So how is outreach being done there?
Right. So you're exactly right. Those are some of the areas that we have to focus on. And believe it or not, apartment buildings are, if you're an apartment dweller or a renter, you're in the hard to count community. So what we are doing, we're using our partners and reaching out through the affordable housing and other apartment complexes and making sure that they have information that they need to pass along to their residents. So we're going to be putting up the yard signs at these complexes with the information, giving handouts. We have a lot of swag. We have a whole lot of stuff to give away. So if you are part of an apartment complex or you are a manager and want information that you can provide to your residents, please email us at census2020 at arlingtonva.us, and we can make sure to get you information materials to give out to your residents.
Wonderful, thank you. So another question on apartments, but I think more for you, Kevin.
Mhm.
How do enumerators get into apartment buildings, particularly when they're locked?
Mhm. Yeah, we would work with apartment building management to get access to the building.
So you like reach out to them beforehand and kind of prearrange?
It could be that way, or when we arrive, we can do it then.
Okay, great. Do you ever have any challenges with that? Getting a hold of people like on the week? Because I know that I used to live in an apartment building where they did not have staff on site on weekends.
Mhm. No, I mean, the Census Bureau runs current surveys all the time where we have experience with this. So we have a lot of guidance on how to best practices for that.
Great. Another question for you, Kevin. Do you think that the impact of the coronavirus this year is going to kind of roll forward in terms of impacting the way the census will be conducted in the future? Like, for instance, potentially no more door-to-door, online only, et cetera.
I'm not really sure. I can't really speak to that, but I think with this census, having the option to respond online, it's a great tool, especially during times like this where people are staying home. They can easily go online and respond, or they can call to respond.
Wonderful. Another question, I think you might be able to address this one, Kevin, and then potentially Elizabeth, you could also chime in. We have a question from a school teacher who's asking about needing materials for online lessons. Does the census have lessons that the school teacher can use?
Yeah, so we have statistics in schools, and let me get a link for that, and I will send it to the Arlington Complete Count Committee, and then they can hopefully get in contact with that person.
Right. So what statistics in schools? Can you say more about that?
It's something that the Census Bureau does, working with schools, kind of talk about the importance of the census and how it's used.
Great. Elizabeth, did you want to add anything to that in terms of how we've been using it so far?
Yeah, it's Statistics in Schools is actually a really great program, and the Census Bureau has beefed it up this time around. So I think it goes from grades pre-K through 12, and covers 5 different languages. So it's not just math; it's history, sociology or psychology, English. So it really kind of weaves in those different languages, different subjects together. And they also have English as second language materials online, but these are great resources. Even, if you're a parent looking for resources for your kid while they're home and they need more work to do, these are great. Go online. They're really short, and they're designed by teachers to be integrated right into the work plan. So they are really a great resource to have, not only through the census time, but throughout, all the time. They're going to be probably on the website from here for the next 10 years, I would think.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, I think you're right about that. There's so many things that the census has an impact on, so I think it's really relevant to keep teaching kids about it even when it's not a census year or we're preparing for one. So Kevin, back to you. We have a question. When will the Census Bureau learn if Congress will approve their request, and what happens if they don't?
That question is really something headquarters is working with Congress and the Department of Commerce. I really can't speak much more than that. That's something that they're handling at the headquarters level.
Great. Another question for you. Does the response rate include paper submissions?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So that's everything. So the map online would include anybody online, paper, or on phone?
Yes.
Okay, that has responded. Okay, great. All right. Let's see. If anybody has other additional questions, put them through, but I'm looking through the chat box. So a couple notes just on follow up on items and things that we've been talking about. So the Complete Count Committee and the wonderful staff at Arlington County have put together a census toolkit online on our website, or on the part of the county website that speaks to this. There are flyers there, and people are welcome to download them. In addition to going to the Alan Bozeman Center, the main Arlington County office building, to pick up materials. Also, the Statistics in Schools link was just put in the Facebook chat. So if you're watching us from Facebook Live, then you have access to the Facebook, or to the Statistics in Schools link. And I will reiterate what Elizabeth said, that the Arlington Census email is census2020@arlingtonva.us. Okay, I think we're close to the end here. I don't see any other questions coming in. While we wait for maybe any other questions, I will first say thank you to Kevin and just see if you have, if you, Kevin, and then you, Katie, have any closing remarks. Kevin, anything to wrap up with?
I'd just like to thank everyone for having me today to talk about the census, and just really want to emphasize the importance of responding and the ease of it, either by my2020census.gov, by calling 844-330-2020, or responding by paper form. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin, for joining us. Katie, over to you for some remarks.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly the right note to end on, is please complete your census, especially if you haven't already done it. Please remember that the people in your life all count, whether they're kids under 5, seniors, or other vulnerable populations. It is just so critically important, as I was noting at the top of our time together, that we are fully and completely counted as Arlington County, because that money, or that count, translates into money for things that are top priorities for all of us, whether it's public safety in hospitals, public schools, school feeding, roads, and many other incredibly important elements to our daily lives. So thank you, as always, to the Complete Count Committee, which is continuing to reach out in all kinds of creative and innovative ways in this strange moment that we're in. Please don't let the pandemic be a reason to not be counted. Make it a reason to be counted. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. And just so everyone knows, all the follow-up information, the links, email addresses, websites, etc., will be shared along with a recording of this meeting. There will be a recording of this meeting available on Arlington County's Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as on Arlington TV at tv.arlington.us. Wanda, do you want to wrap us up?
Just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today, and be counted.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.